Hello Cloud Pedagogians, thanks for joining me in this session. This lab describes how to connect an Amazon EC2 instance to an Amazon RDS database. You can use the automatic connection functionality in the Amazon EC2 console to quickly connect one or more EC2 instances to an RDS database to allow traffic between them. With respect to cost in this lab, while there is no charge to automatically connect your EC2 instance to an RDS database, you are charged for the underlying services. Just to have an idea, data transfer fees will apply if your EC2 instance and RDS database are in different availability zones. So, what are we waiting for? Get going with our task. In task 1, create an MySQL RDS database. In task 2, we will launch an EC2 instance. In task 3, we'll configure EC2 instance to your RDS database. In task 4, we will verify the connection between the RDS and EC2 instance. Finally, in task 5, we will clean all the resources that are created in this lab. So, let's start with the task 1. Create an MySQL RDS database. The objective of this task is to create an RDS database so that you can configure the connection between your EC2 instance and your RDS database. Let's open Amazon RDS console. From the region selector, choose an AWS region where your EC2 instance exists. Because the database and the EC2 instance must be in the same region in order to use the automatic connection feature in the EC2 console. On the dashboard, choose Create Dashboard. Under Choose a Database Creation Method, check that Standard Create is selected. If you choose Easy Create, the VPC selector is not available. You must ensure that your database is in the same VPC as your EC2 instance in order to use the automatic connection feature in the EC2 console. Under Engine Options, for engine type, choose MySQL. Under Templates, choose a sample template to meet your needs. For this lab, choose free tier to create a database at no cost. However, note that the free tier is only available if your account is less than 12 months old. Under Settings, for Database Instance Identifier, enter a name for the database. So for this lab, I am entering CP Database 1. For master username, leave the default name, which is admin. For master password, enter a password that you can remember for this lab. And then for confirm password, enter the password again. Under instance configuration, for DB instance class, leave the default, which is DB-T3 micro. If your account is less than 12 months, you can use this database class for free. Under connectivity, for compute resource, choose Do not connect to an EC2 compute resource because you will connect the EC2 instance in the RDS database in the later task. For virtual private cloud, choose a VPC. The VPC must have a database subnet group. To use the automatic connection feature, your EC2 instance and RDS database must be in the same VPC. Please don't forget it. Keep all the default values for other fields on this page and then click Create Database. On the database screen, the status of the new database is creating until the database is ready to use. When the status changes to available, you can connect to the database. Depending on the database class and the amount of storage, it can take up to 20 minutes before the new database is available. Good job, you pulled it off with the task 1. In task 2, we are going to launch an EC2 instance. Let's open Amazon EC2 console page. From the region selector, choose an AWS region. Again, I am telling the instance and the RDS database must be in the same region in order to use the automatic connection feature in the EC2 console. So, select the same region. On the EC2 dashboard, choose Launch Instance. Enter a name Make sure you select the same VPC as you have used in RDS. Enable these checkboxes so that you can allow HTTP and HTTPS traffic from the internet. Review your instance configuration and then choose Launch Instance. Good job, you have finished with task 2 by creating an instance. In task 3, we are going to configure EC2 instance to your RDS database. So the objective of this task is to use the automatic connection feature in the EC2 console to automatically configure the connection between your EC2 instance and your RDS database. Before you can automatically connect to an EC2 instance to an RDS database, check whether the EC2 instances must be in the running state. You can't connect an EC2 instance if it is in another state. Also check whether the EC2 instance and RDS database must be in the same VPC. The automatic connection feature is not supported if an EC2 instance and RDS database are in different VPCs. So select the EC2 instance that you just created. Choose Actions. In Networking, select Connect RDS Database. If Connect RDS Database is not available, check that the EC2 instance is in the running state or not. For database role, choose Instance. In this case, refers to the database instance. For RDS database, choose the RDS database that you just created in task 1. Click Connect. Bravo, you did configure a connection from your EC2 instance to RDS using console. In task 4, we are going to verify the connection between EC2 and RDS. After Amazon RDS provisions your DB instance, you can use any standard MariaDB client application or utility to connect to that instance. In the connection string, you specify the domain name system, which is DNS address, from the DB instance endpoint as the host parameter. You also specify the port number from the DB instance endpoint as the port parameter. You did create a connection between EC2 instance and RDS. It's the time to check the connection by logging through EC2 SSH. So select EC2 instance and click Connect. Most Linux distributions include the MariaDB client instead of Oracle MySQL client. To install the MySQL command line client on Amazon Linux 2023, run sudo dnf install MariaDB 105. To check the version of your MySQL command line client, run MySQL version. To find the connection information for a DB instance in the AWS console, choose the name of MariaDB instance to display its details. On the Connectivity and Security tab, copy the endpoint. Also note the port number. You need both the endpoint and port number to connect to the DB instance. Copy the endpoint. The connection information for a DB instance includes its endpoint, port, and a valid database user such as the master user. In this case, the port value is 3306 and the database user is admin. So enter the DNS name with your DB instance endpoint and the username admin. Provide the password that you used when prompted for a password. After you enter the password for the user, you see output similar as in the screen. Good, you were able to connect to the database. Let's do some database operations to confirm them. Let me create a database and look for the database list. Now I'm going to create a table. Let me insert data into the table. Finally, let me have a look of the records in the table. Good job, you nailed it with the task 4 too as well. In the final task 5, we are going to clean all the resources that are created for this lab. Now that you have completed the lab, it's a good practice to clean up any resources you no longer want to use. Cleaning up AWS resources prevents your account from incurring any further charges. To delete your database, go to your Amazon RDS console. In the navigation pane, choose your database. Select the RDS database that you created for this lab. In Actions, click Delete. Enter Delete Me in the box and then choose Delete. Go to your EC2 instance console page. Select the instance that you created for this lab and then choose Instance State and Terminate Instance. Choose Terminate when prompted for confirmation. Congratulations! You have successfully finished the lab by connecting an EC2 instance to an RDS database. So that's all for today's class. I appreciate your time on this lab. See you again in my next lab. Until then, take care.